what's going on? It's Josh Thompson. We are talking today about the pages, the SEO pages you want on your website for a home service business or contractor, right? And why we want those pages, what they should generally be, and how they help us, right? With kind of an emphasis on Google Maps. That's where I focus. And once again, this is not going to be a tutorial of how to do it. This is more what you need to be looking for, what you should kind of have as a goal, and then understanding that if you don't have these pages on your site, that you need to get them. They're very important. And if you have an SEO company or somebody you're working with and you're not getting these pages, then you have a problem, right? So let's go through these pages, why we have them, how they work, and then I'm going to add a little bonus as to what I like to do, because I think creating new content consistently on your website is smart. And so I'm always looking for things, new ways to add content that can build your structure and your authority. I'm not talking about blogs. Maybe I'll touch on that, but that's not what we want here. We don't want to be building blogs. There's basically no reason to build a blog. Maybe a very, very slight few specific reasons. So if somebody is charging you for a blog, that is a waste of your money. So that's a big red flag. So cool. So let's jump into the pages that you want. I'm just going to grab one of my customers here that I work with. So the first type of page that you want, page style, is for your services. You basically want to have a different page for each one of your primary services. So if you're a plumber, you don't just want a plumbing page, right? You want hot water, repair and, plumbing repair and hot water heater installation, right? Maybe like bathroom repairs, maybe like emergency repair. Anything people are going to generally be searching or looking for, we want to include. And you can see here we have gutter installation, gutter repair, gutter guards, gutter cleaning. Those are the primaries for this company. But then what can we do? We can start adding different things. So we can add styles. So we have gutter styles here. We have metal options. And then I'm going to be adding this month to this site some information about different selections for the thickness and for the width of the gutters. Two more kind of pieces about gutters, right? That just give people more in-depth understanding of their services and what they're offering and kind of their options within the services. So there's a lot of ways to expand on this, and people search for this stuff, right? If I just have the regular gutter services, that's not bad. But by adding the metals, right, people will be searching for copper gutters specifically or steel gutters specifically. So I want to add those kind of services in because it shows Google that we offer this. And for Google Maps especially, this is huge because Google Maps is going to use our website as a way to determine what we offer and then use its algorithm to determine where to place us within the results when somebody searches. But if I have pages on copper gutters and most of my competitors don't, or steel, and somebody searches for steel gutters specifically, I'm more likely to show up at the top of those results. So all of your services, building out your service pages is really important. And, I just like to make it easy for people to call, right? Put some pictures, make it easy for people to call. And then typically you can all connect these back up with all of the other services within that, within that hierarchy, right? So all the main gutter services are all connected to each other within a silo, as it's called, where they all are connected together like this, and I can connect them all, interconnect them, right? And I love testimonials. I think I need to do more on this page specifically. I have some at the bottom, but I'm starting to move those more towards the top, right? Anything we can do to showcase, or in the middle, showcase our work and showcase testimonials, I think is smart for these kind of service pages. So that's number one. Okay, so for number two now, we have city pages. And so if I go to our city pages here for Superior, you can see we have a lot of them. Typically, this doesn't need to happen. The way I think about it is, if the competitors in my area are doing it more granularly, I'll consider doing that and experimenting with that and seeing how it helps. But typically, you don't need to put a city page for each service. You just need a city page for your general services. And then you can break that up if you offer different service categories. So if you're a plumber and an HVAC company, then I would do each city for each of those services, general services, because they're different. You don't want to put plumbing and HVAC together. But if you're a plumber, then I would just do the main cities around you with plumbing. So you can see here, right, we have these gutter services, roofing services. So here's a roofing services in Boise. And I like to put the slug like this. So where it says roofing services, and then it has the city and the state ID is Idaho. The state, you want that 2-letter state, or write the state out. It's really important that it looks like this in the URL for Google, that you can actually see, you know, roofing services, Boise, Idaho, right? Like that's really important to have. And then you can see these are all fall under cities. So that's the second type of page. Like I said, so you want to have all of the cities around you that you serve. You want to have one of these 4. Okay. You can, even if you serve a few cities that are farther away, you can use those as well. That's great. And then you can even do neighborhoods. If there's really important neighborhoods in your local area that are huge or well-known, or they might have their own search volume, meaning the people in there are going to actually search for their neighborhood, you can add that. It's kind of a whatever. It's maybe a good thing to add as time goes on. Maybe it's something that you can do, or that I would do, you know, once we have everything else done. But just understand that is a possibility in these cities to add kind of neighborhood pages as well. But this is another thing we want. We need these city pages. We need to let Google know that even if you're located in New York City, you know, we also service Staten Island, and we also service New Jersey, right? And Queens and Brooklyn. Like, we want Google to know we work here. Show us to these people. They're in our service area. So once again, this is all for Google Maps, right? And there are some searches we can get through traditional search here, but for the most part, we're just trying to give Google, for Google Maps, all of the information they need to know when we should show up for a search. So that's the city pages. So that's 2. Now the third is location pages. And I have been finding, I don't know if I have those on here. So you can see we have these 2 locations here. Let me see if I can pull up locations on this website. All right, cool. So here we have our 2 locations, and you can see here's a location page that shows, hey, here's our location, right? Here's some of the services we offer. You know, here's our address. Here's a map, right? Here's where they can schedule. So that's a really important page, is having locations pages. And I'm starting to move away. You know, typically your business and what most people are going to do is put your, you know, you have one location, they're going to put you to the home page. But I'm finding most businesses have a reason to have a second location at some point. And when you have that pointing to your home page, it just starts to get complicated when you start creating location pages later. So my thought process is probably you want to just start with location pages right away. Have your first location be on a location page, Put that in to your Google business profile. Then as you add those, you're still following that structure instead of trying to use your homepage and then potentially switching that, which I don't like doing. I don't want to change that once it's working, right? So I think it's better just to have a location page right off the bat for your location and just use that. So with this location page, you just need to have your contact information. You want to have your address, maybe an embedded map, those kind of things. But this is a really good way for Google to understand where you are and just having your address, like I said, and putting that information in the footer can also be helpful if you don't have a lot of locations. That's really good to have some of that in the footer of your website. So that's kind of the third thing that you need to be creating is location pages specific to your different locations and just thinking ahead, preparing for that. Like I said, I find most businesses are probably going to have at least 2 locations, even if you're in a big city, 2, 3, maybe 4 at some point if things go well for you. So just preparing ahead for that. Now here's the bonus, right? Because I just think you're gonna run out of content a little bit, and you want to always be generating new content. And this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I've been doing that's working really well, is creating product pages. And what a product page is basically, it's where you can showcase all the products. And you're saying, I'm a service business, I don't have products. Well, you probably have a lot of products that you install or you work on. And this is a great way to pick up some of the people in your local area that might be looking for specific products and services. And it's also a good way just to show Google more about how good you are, what you do, help them just better understand your business and really build content around your business is with these product pages. So for gutters and roofing, you can see we have these products that we use. They're just basically products that we install ourselves for the business, right? Now that might not be a lot, but there might be a ton of products out there, right? So that's where we can say, hey, products we work on. And we can start listing out basically every product in your market that you work on, that you'll repair, which for the most part is going to be everything, right? So it just really builds our authority when we have these pages talking about the products and the brands and what those brands are and how they work and the differences in brands. Oh my gosh, that's such great information to show Google that you're an expert on what you do, is by talking about these different things, right? So I think there's so much opportunity there to show products that you operate, that you fix, that you install, that you use, maybe different machinery that you use. All that is really good. And it just, you put yourself up against a competitor who doesn't have that, who has everything else, and you have everything else as well, but you have these product pages. Who looks like they know more? Generally, it's going to look like you have a bigger, you have a bigger database of information about products and services, and you are more of an expert, right? So I love this. I think it's super helpful, and it gives you some things that you can do when you're running out of topics. Maybe you've done all your services, all your city pages. How do we keep putting some new information onto the website that's going to help us get that authority? So with those pages, that's where you want to focus. You don't need blog posts. Okay, you never need blog posts basically unless you have some kind of specific type of press release that you're trying to do or some kind of link building with one specific topic, that is more general. Otherwise, if somebody is writing you blog posts and you don't have all of these pages done on your website, then you're wasting your time. And even then, generally, if someone is writing you blog posts, you're probably wasting your time and money. So that gives you a good idea of what to look for on your website for a home service business, a contractor. This is what you want. So you want to find this one, you make sure is being built properly and that there's some kind of plan to enact and build this type of information on your website in a way that's meaningful and that Google, can find and utilize, which You don't need to understand. That's my job, right? But just that you see these pages being built. That's what's going to matter. So hopefully this is helpful. Like I said, this isn't a tutorial. It's what you can look for. It's what you need to be getting done at some level. Let me know if you have any questions. We have a downloadable Google Maps for SEO for your local business, how to use Google Maps, how it works, the process. Feel free, if you want to learn how to do this yourself, brightbeamseo.com, or you can email me, josh@brightbeamseo.com. We can talk more about your business and how these things work for home service businesses and contractors. Or if you just have any questions, leave a comment. Let me know what your questions are, or if you have any other things you want to talk about related to this video. And we'll see you tomorrow.